to my channel. It's Angela. And I decided to go ahead and do Simon from the Hermit's Cave video he did. I think it's hashtag My Tarot Journey. I did a similar one like 4 or 5 years ago used to be Becca Talks in Tarot. I don't know what she is now. It was hashtag My Tarot Growth. It's very similar to this. And then I did a video before that even on my journey so thus far. And it was like a year into my tarot journey. We are several years into it now. So these prompts should be a little better. There's 4 prompts. The first one is the beginning, the deck that started off for you. Okay. The first one is the beginning, the deck that started it all for you. The second one is the deepening deck or decks that helped you grow, learn, or deepen your practice. Number 3 is the now, the deck or decks that currently resonate with you the most. And number 4 is the milestones, any other decks that mark significant points in your journey, tarot journey. And I'm just going to sprinkle those in, which he said we could do. So here we go. And the first few of these are going to be the same as any other video I've done that shows my tarot journey, because that beginning has never changed. So the very first deck I ever bought, I've told the story 1,000 times. I woke up one morning with the overwhelming need to buy a tarot deck. And the more I resisted, the more anxious I became. And I was at the point where I was having panic attacks that I did not buy a tarot deck. I had no interest in tarot. I don't even know if I believed in tarot at that point. And I literally went to bed without this need. Literally woke up, and it was like a flip had switched while I had slept. And I literally woke up almost having a panic attack that I needed to buy a tarot deck, and I could not figure out why. I had no interest, and I'm like, I don't need a tarot deck. What are they? Why? And the more I resisted, the more anxious I became. This went on for several weeks before I said, you know what? I give in to the voices in my head. I got to go buy a tarot deck. And I had done what I thought was some research, because I still didn't know what oracles were. I didn't know there were several different systems. I knew nothing about tarot. All I knew was there was a word called tarot, and there was, at some point, it was evil. Because I grew up Pentecostal, I grew up, all this stuff is, if it's not in the Bible, if it's not in the church, it's evil. And I had a lot of overcoming to do once I got the first tarot deck, because I still believed that when I bought the deck. And there's been so many things since then that have just opened my eyes to so many things. But the very first deck I ever bought was the Radiant Rider-Waite Smith. And I threw the box away because it sucked. It was by U.S. Games. I made a box for it, and the Eight of Swords was the only card I resonated with. So at the time, so I made a copy of it and put it on here. This was 2019, April or May of 2019. April 2019. There's what the cards used to look like. And then I just recently, in the last year, took the borders off, because I hate the borders. And I figured that's why I hated this deck. No, I just hate this deck. But it has a huge book, which I love. But it's an extra card that shows Radiant Rider-Waite Tarot, U.S. Games. And then I made it a mini with highlighted it in yellow on the edges. This is a perfect deck for beginners. I was just so resistant to it. I would have picked any deck that was my first tarot deck. I would have probably felt the same way about. I still don't read with this deck. I still have so much resentment toward this deck, because it was like it forced me to buy it. Something in the universe forced me to buy this deck. When I felt like I wasn't ready, even though obviously it was time to get into all the things I've gotten into since then. But this was my very, very first deck, the deck I tried to learn on, tried all my things with, and I was just so resistant and so nothing sunk in. And I was just like, I hate this deck so much. I don't hate it now. I don't use it, but I don't hate it. I've come to the realization of why I don't use this deck, and it was just because I would have felt that way about any deck that I bought was my first tarot deck. I would have felt that way about, just because I felt like something bigger than myself was forcing me to do something I didn't want to do. But this was the very, very first deck I bought. None of it resonated, and I could not figure out why I had suddenly become obsessed with the Eight of Swords. And I'm like, why? Because look at her. Like, why would you become obsessed with that particular card? I couldn't figure it out. Bought a couple Oracle decks, and I read with those. It was like immediate connection with those. And I'm like, maybe I can only read Oracle. And then months later, we're talking September. Okay, so from April to September of 2019, I bought nothing. Except for 2 Oracle decks. No tarot. So in September, which is my birthday month, I decided I want this deck. I saw the World card in it. It was the Tarot Illuminati. And I bought it. And I was having the same issue. I was like, I can't read with this deck. These are the backs. And I did a horrible job. I used a gold paint marker. Do not ever use a paint marker. It gets everywhere. It ruined, like, it didn't ruin the cards. The cards are nice little in cardstock. It's Low Scarabeo, excuse me. It's Low Scarabeo. But I didn't care for it. I didn't care for the gilding. Look at that. 80 Swords right on top. Again, we're talking about her. I love this deck. I thought it was so beautiful, so pretty. Each suit is a different, what's the word I'm looking for? Each suit is a different, ethnicity. It's a gorgeous deck, but again, nothing sunk in, and I'm like, what is happening? And then I dropped I actually was practicing doing reading on Facebook, and somebody had asked me something, and I couldn't even tell you what they asked me. And I was trying to be accurate with the book and trying to remember what the card meant. It was a whole thing, and I'm like, I'm never going to remember this. I'm never going to be good at this because I'm not getting what the book is saying. The card means. And I literally heard a voice at that point say, throw the book away. What do you see? What do you hear? What do you feel in this card? Because I had pulled the Three of Swords. And I literally heard a small, still voice in my head say, throw the book away. What do you see in this card? And I haven't seen an RWS deck before. I have one. But it never was clear to me that there is rain in the background of this card. Usually all you see is the Three Swords with the heart, and this has actually got blood dripping off of it. It's quite horrific if you think about the connotations, right? So I hear a voice say, throw the book away. What do you see? What do you hear? What do you feel? What do you smell? And I'm like, what? And all of a sudden, I no longer saw this. I saw a raging storm in the background. I saw and heard the waves bashing against the rocks. I could smell the ozone of the lightning in the air. And I'm like, what is happening? And I literally heard a voice after that say, don't worry, your rainbow is coming. And I'm like, what? Because there's always a rainbow after the storm, right? And all I could hear, all I could see, all I could feel, all I could smell was this huge raging storm. And that moment not only opened up something inside of me, but it also allowed me to give a good reading to someone that she was like, oh my God, this is exactly what I need to hear, blah, 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 blah. And it was a whole thing. And I'm like, it was the first time I had let go. Because it's something very hard for me to do. I had let go and just whatever came to me, that's what I repeated to her. And with this card, something changed. And I was able to start reading tarot. I'm like, whoa, that's crazy. Like, all of a sudden, things were making sense. And I would say for anybody out there, because you have everybody's like, oh, this should be your first deck, or this should be your first deck. First of all, your first deck should be a deck that you actually are attracted to, because the first deck you think you need and you buy, it's going to go to waste, just like my Radiant Rider-Waite-Smith did, or has, because it's sat on the shelf pretty much since 2019. And secondly, if you feel the need to not go by the book, don't go by the book. This is not a right or wrong situation. It's how you feel, how your specific practice, how your specific spiritual journey, or even just tarot journey should be. None of it is right, none of it is wrong. So, yeah. So the next deck, I had about several more decks, and I was going far away from, so now we're on to the deepening, number 2. That was prompt 1 in the beginning, the deck that started off for you. So those are the decks that started, actually, no. Yeah, that's the decks that started it off for me. I was going to show my Light Seers because it actually just deepened. Well, we can do that with this one. So the number 2, that's the decks that started it off for me. Number 2 is the deepening deck, or decks that helped you grow, learn, or deepen your practice. So the very next deck I bought after the Illuminati, I saw was the Light Seers, and this one's the in a 10 just because I didn't want to reach for the big one. This is by Hay House. I saw this on Lisa Pepez's channel, and I'm like, oh, but she had the indie version. And I didn't know that it was already out of print. And I was so sad. And then she's like, and then literally weeks later it came out mass market. And I'm like, oh. So I just bought it. And for some reason, let me find it here. For some reason, I bought it for the 8 of Swords. And I'm like, why am I addicted? I don't know, I could be showing you these cards in the process. This is my 5 of Wands, my Forever Stalker card. And I realized that in this deck. I love this deck. I love the mini, too. It's not super tiny. And I love that it's borderless. Yeah. I got this deck, and I'm like, why am I attracted to the 8 of Swords? Like, why? Why is that the card I'm stalking? Because I stalked it for a long time, and I'm like, why? And then I got this deck, and there she is. And I realized the 8 of Swords was me. I was still seeing myself blind and bound with no options, no opportunity, no nothing. And I was no longer in that phase of my life. I hadn't been in over 20 years. But I still saw myself in this stuck position. And when that hit, it was like a waterfall of emotions, feelings, thoughts. All these things came out, and I'm like, what is happening to me? It was like the Light Seers is the dam that broke. It was like the thing that broke the dam of all these things I had pent up. And that is more than likely why this is my favorite deck ever. Because it saw me before I realized I was seeing me and reflected in the cards. If that makes any sense at all. But that is the... and what I like to say, what the Illuminati taught me, the Light Seers peeled back another layer and helped deepen that in every way, shape, or form. Without this deck, I don't know that I would still even be reading tarot at all, honestly. And I love this Ten of Swords. I really wish I had the original version, but yeah, I'm never going to get it. But that is the Light Seers Tarot. That's the first deck that really deepened me learning, because I was still so... I don't know what I'm doing. I still say that, but I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. And then to do another sprinkle in of a milestone deck, I've got 2 more decks I want to show real quick. This is the 2.0 tarot I also saw on Simon from the Hermit's Cave channel. This was on Make Playing Cards. I don't know if it still is today, but it's got that nice smooth. But I went as far away from RWS as I could with every deck that I bought after the Light Seers. I was like, nope, if it resembles even slightly the RWS, I ain't buying it. Because I had assumed at that time that I could not have an RWS deck. Then this deck showed itself to me in his video, and I'm like, I need the color. I need it for the coloring. It's gorgeous. And I bought it. And I got it. I'm like, I'm never going to use that. So it sat on my shelf for like 2 weeks. And then I heard a small, still voice say, pick up that deck and take it to work. And I'm like, why? I'm never going to, no. I'm never going to resonate with it. It's not going to happen. And it's like, just take it to work. And I took it to work. And then it said, hey, do a reading at lunchtime for this deck to see how the rest of your day is going to go. And I'm like, why? I fought it every step of the way. And the second I did that, it was instant connection, instant accuracy. Everything about this screamed perfection. And I'm like, oh, I can read with an RWS deck. Forever Stalker card again. And I love the coloring of this. It's so beautiful. This is the deck that opened up being able to buy and read more RWS decks for me. I don't know where the pouch just went. And I keep it in this pouch because it didn't come in a box or anything when I got it. It just came in cellophane wrapped. But I have this little, matches, the colors match, and it's got a dragonfly. Then I was like, I can't buy no indie decks ever. And then I saw this guy, the Encore Tarot by Tara Marchetti. When I first saw it, it was out of print. And he said, oh, I'm not making any more ever. Look at that red. Oh, my gosh. This moon card is why I bought this deck. There's just a certain freedom in this that's so stunning. Beautiful. But I saw this on I have some random channel. And I'm like, oh, I need that in my life. It's so stunning. And then I saw it was out of print. And I'm like, And then when he got it back in print, I immediately bought it. Like the second it was back available, I bought it. And then I got it in the mail, and I'm like, so I can just buy indie decks if I want to now? So this actually, what the 2.0 did, opening up my way of buying more RWS, this deck opened up being able to buy independent decks. For some reason, I was like, I can't buy an indie deck. That's stupid. Why would I do that and spend all that extra money? And then I have cut to at least 30 now. But this one is the first one that started all of my indie need to buy indie decks. And this is stunning. This is my favorite Tara Marchetti deck. This is my third favorite deck ever, of any deck ever. And yeah, that deck just was like, I need you in my life, and we're here to stay. So that was the deepening, the decks that helped me grow, learn, or deepen my practice in some way, shape, or form. So, and the decks that, like, they're also, the RWS and the Encore were like milestone decks also. So number 3, so we've kind of done 4 already, sprinkled in. Number 3 is the deck or decks that currently resonate with you the most. And I'm shocked at what decks I picked here. This, I trimmed it down because it was horrific, is the Pomp Tarot. I never in a million years, and I etched it in black and red because the backs are black and red. It's a mini deck now just because it was huge and I hated the white borders. Oh my god, every time that's in front, it's warped right now because of the weather and because this is a crappy cardstock. I effing love this deck so hard. And it's not a deck I thought I would buy that I would like. I bought this last year sometime. It cracks me up every time I get it. Every time I get it out and I look at it and read with it, I crack up. Even though I hate this cardstock. I wish they would come out with a better one. I would have bought the Horror Tarot, also by Todd Alcott, if they didn't have the same exact cardstock, which I know it does. The cardstock sucks. But I think this is a hilarious deck. And I never went for funny decks. I went for serious, Oh, it's always got to be so serious because tarot's a serious business. Reading with tarot is a serious business. And I've learned over the years, you can have a hilarious deck too. This is one of my newest, but my other one that's super funny is the Zombie Tarot. I love that deck. This is one of the newest ones, and I'm just like, I can't put it down. It's hilarious. It brings out the funny side of me, and I need funny in my life sometimes. Sometimes we all just need a good laugh, right? Also, the Rhythm and Soul Tarot. I got this. It's an indie deck also. I did not get it on the Kickstarter, but I got it after the Kickstarter ended. It comes with a huge book. It's all based on music. Each card has its own song. I love music of all kinds, okay? This is actually gilded in gold also. Huge cards. The biggest shocker of this card deck, though, this is the same person that did the, I love that Chariot. Chariot's my soul card. I freaking love that. I've seen Elvis Presley's house. I've seen his pink Cadillac in person. I grew up 40 minutes from Memphis, and this deck takes place in Memphis or the surrounding areas. And it's, when I got it, I didn't realize how, because the Southern Gothic Oracle I love. It speaks to my soul, and it's the same creator, so I'm like, I've got to get it. It's beautiful. And then I got it, and I didn't realize how deep the ancestry glue of my youth was in this deck. And I was shocked because I was like, oh. And again, it's brought out, I've had such a traumatic childhood growing up that all the tarot decks I've been buying are either dark or twisted or nothing fun or funny or charming, if that makes sense. This deck, to me, is charming. I love it to pieces. But it brought out a side of my youth that I was not expecting, because it reminds me of my youth, but at the same time it reminds me of the good times I had in my youth. And those were very precious because they were very few. And I mean, I cried using this deck, and I'm like, why? And now I know why. It's because it reminded me that there's ancestry past of mine that's not all bad, that there is some good to it. Speaking of that, another deck I would have never bought, the Unicorn's Journey Tarot. This is my child, the child within me that never got to buy something like this, or even have a unicorn growing up. These are the backs. It's by Lisa Pepez. We all know and love. The edging is pink. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. This is the little girl inside of me that never got to buy things. I went through a whole phase where I never had a Barbie growing up. I never had Care Bears. Never had any of those things. And the last couple years, I went through a whole buying myself these things because my inner child still deserves them, despite the fact that I'm closer to 50 than I am 5. We all still need that part of our childhood to be something, to mean something. And this deck is like, yeah, we do. So this is another like milestone deck for me. This and the Rhythm and Blues are basically my childhood healing from the tumultuous past, only because I would have never bought something like either of these decks had that not been the case. Had it been the case that I was still not ready, not healed, not able to face my childhood and my youth, I would have never bought these decks. But just the simple fact that I can buy the decks and I love them as much as I do, that means something deep inside of me has already healed, and I just didn't realize it. But I love, love, love this deck. So the last deck I'm going to show you is one of the newest decks. I got it in January? I might have got it this month in February. Today's the 23rd of February, I think. 2025. This is the Botan Tarot. It is a serious deck. But just looking at it, this is not any kind of artwork I would have ever purchased. Look at the edging, gorgeous. I don't like that it's linen, of course, but I do like it's a non-slippy linen. This is not any kind of artwork that I would normally be attracted to, but I saw this and fell madly in love. And then I asked myself the ultimate question: if this went out of print and you did not own it, would you be mad? And I almost started crying just thinking about it, because I'm like, I need this deck in my life. And I got it, and it is not disappointed. I freaking love this deck. And now I think it belongs to somebody that has passed. And that's probably why I bought it when I bought it, because they passed literally a week or so after I got it. And I didn't even know they had passed. And that came through the cards, and I'm like, I need to call this person, which I'll talk about this more in my wrap-up of February. I said, I need to call this person and ask how that person's doing. And they had passed 2 days before. And I'm like, what? So I feel like this is their way of communicating with me now, is through this deck, because she was front and center in the decks, and I'm like, what is happening? But this deck is serious. It's so stunning, though, and it just goes to show how much my art style has changed also. I mean, I'll buy anything that I'm attracted to, but this was not something I was ever... I don't like the line drawing kind of work, but this deck works for me, and I love it to pieces. So that is my journey through, as of now, through the... journey through the tarot, since the last time. But if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, don't hesitate to comment below. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you want to see more, please subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification button so you're alerted to any future videos. And y'all have a good night.